Howdy, my name is Elijah. About a year ago, I made a video talking about the future of public transit in the city of Knoxville. I did a lot of hard-hitting journalism and interviewed Isaac Thorne, the director of CAT. You a Joe Rogan fan?
I'm not. No, I don't really listen to him that much.
Since then, the Knoxville City Council implemented that new plan and they passed a resolution. So in about August of 2024, we're gonna see all those changes to the bus network take place. And I wanted to make a really quick video summarizing all the details of that plan. Let's start by comparing the old and new bus route maps. This first map shows the old bus network for the city of Knoxville. And this other map shows the brand new bus network for the city of Knoxville. And there are a bunch of key differences here, but I'll explain them in a little bit. The biggest thing to understand about the whole CAT Reimagine project was that one of their biggest goals was to, using the same number of buses and bus drivers, increase bus frequency on 3 specific routes. These include Magnolia Avenue, Cumberland Avenue, and Kingston Pike / Sutherland Avenue. All 3 of these routes connect to downtown Knoxville. They were able to increase bus frequency on these key routes by decreasing the number of buses going to less busy routes. A really good example of this is East Knoxville. In the old plan, there were about 5 different routes that serviced that area, and you had to wait on average about 30 minutes or more to catch a bus. But in the new plan that's coming out around August, there's only 3 routes, but they run a lot more frequently, and one of those routes is going to be high frequency, so you'll only have to wait about 15 minutes to catch the bus. That high frequency route in East Knoxville is actually going to run directly next to the new baseball stadium that Randy Boyd is building. So that's going to be a really good connection from that part of the city to downtown Knoxville. All 3 of these high frequency routes are going to converge onto Cumberland Avenue, which means that every single day of the week, there are going to be about 8 buses per hour that transport people from Cumberland Avenue to downtown. So if you live on Cumberland Avenue in the future, you may not even need a car to get to and from the downtown area. So just a quick recap, this new bus network plan is emphasizing these 3 key high-frequency routes, which are going to be running buses every 15 minutes or less. This is really important because the more frequently you run the buses, the more people you're able to move in this bus network, which means that long-term, there'll be a lot less traffic in these areas of the city. At this point, you're probably wondering, okay, well, what about the rest of the bus routes? Well, they also got a bunch of upgrades, and just as a warning, the next couple slides show a lot of very detailed graphs. What we're currently looking at is the timetable for all the different bus routes in the city of Knoxville, and it's color-coded. So as you can see, for each route, if you see that it's blue, that means you have to wait about 21 to 30 minutes for a bus to show up at your bus stop. And if it's dark red, that means you have to wait only 15 or so minutes before a bus shows up. And the thing I want to point out is that on weekdays, so Monday through Friday, the buses run fairly frequently. There's a lot of routes that you get 15-minute or better service during peak hours. But in the current plan, on Saturday and Sunday, the bus routes become way less frequent during the weekend. So that's a big issue because on Sunday it's basically unusable. You have to wait about an hour before a bus shows up at a given stop. And at that point, you probably would just be better off driving. But in this new bus network plan, they've evened out a lot of that frequency. And for essentially all of the routes, you can catch a bus just as often on Saturday and Sunday as you could Monday through Friday. So that's going to be a really big improvement. One thing I do want to point out is those 3 high-frequency routes. Those are the 3 red lines near the top of the graph. They don't run high frequency on Saturday and Sunday for all of them. It's only Cumberland Avenue that is high frequency for all 7 days of the week. In the future, I think it'd be really good if they made Kingston Pike and Magnolia Avenue high frequency on Sunday and Saturday as well, but that's something that they may have to improve on in the next coming years. But for big picture ideas, the biggest takeaway is that all of the routes essentially have the same level of service on the weekend as they do during the weekday, which is a massive improvement over the previous network. So now, let's talk about the trolleys. As part of the new bus network plan, CAT is going to be phasing out the trolleys in their current form, and they're going to be replacing them with something else. This has been kind of controversial, and just as a quick history lesson, All the trolleys that run downtown are meant to look like the streetcars that used to be everywhere in the city of Knoxville. And if you don't know what those are, here's a really quick clip of Isaac Thorne talking about them.
Back in 1931, we had electric streetcars. That was the traditional way of transportation. It wasn't vehicles until vehicles were introduced, and then we got rid of all the streetcars, unfortunately. But this is a way of life. Back in the day, it's just we've gotten away from that with the automobile.
So, like Isaac Thorne said, many years ago, we used to have these trolley streetcars that ran on tracks embedded in the street, and they used to go to every part of the city. And we got rid of those for various reasons, and for the past several years, we've had these buses that are meant to look like trolleys. But now we're going to be phasing those out and replacing them with something else. So, just like the last two sections, let's compare the previous bus network with the new system that they're going to be rolling out. So what's on screen right now is a map of the old trolley lines for the downtown area. We have the green line, the blue line, and the orange line. So there were 3 different trolley lines that went through downtown Knoxville. And I know that the colors of the lines do not match the names, but just wanted to put that out there. But one thing that's important to note is in the old plan, the orange trolley line would go from downtown to Cumberland Avenue. And that's one of those lines that's going to be replaced by a high-frequency route, which has about 8 buses per hour connecting downtown to Cumberland Avenue. And what we see on the screen now is an image of what's going to replace the downtown trolleys. And they're going to be calling it the downtown circulator. It's those 2 routes that have the DC labeling them. And as you can see, the DC routes are going to be replacing where the blue and green trolley lines originally went. And that whole orange line that originally connected to Cumberland Avenue isn't going to exist anymore. It's going to be replaced with that high-frequency route that we talked about earlier. So it looks like to me all of the places that were previously serviced by the downtown trolley are still going to be serviced by that downtown circulator routes. And it's going to be more well integrated with the downtown whole bus network. Even though the downtown circulator routes are going to be replacing where the trolleys previously went, there's still a lot of concerns about removing these trolleys, with some people thinking that it's going to be a really big positive change for public transit in Knoxville, and some people being very skeptical of the idea and having their concerns. So what are my thoughts on the matter? Well, I think this really doesn't change much with how people get around downtown Knoxville. For example, I know a lot of people would park at the Coliseum parking lot and they would take the Blue Line trolley to get to Gay Street where they worked, and that would save them about a 9-minute walk. That line and that service is still going to be there with the downtown circulator. But I'd say the biggest, more philosophical change with this whole thing is that the original trolley buses were designed with tourists in mind, and this new downtown circulator is more catered to the actual residents of Knoxville, which I think is going to be a much bigger improvement in the long run. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was really informative for you guys. One of the reasons I made this video is because I was really interested in public transit in the city of Knoxville. And another reason I made it was because I think that as Knoxville continues to grow, investing in public transit is going to be a really great tool we have to fight traffic and reduce traffic in the future. So I hope you enjoyed the video and had a great day.